You're listening to Masonry Principles, your guide to building better buildings, with hosts Amanda Badian and Phil Leden. Well, Happy New Year. Phil and I are kicking off the year 2022 with Masonry Principles, and just the two of us having a conversation of successes in the year 2021 and what 2022 is going to look for us, both organizations, Masonry Institute of Michigan and Upstate Masonry Institute out of New York. And one thing I really wanted to talk about with Phil was value engineering and the quote unquote flipping of projects. He has had so much success where we're building momentum here in New York and offering the service. We have turned to Phil with some, his expertise and helping us gauge how we can do it. But I really wanted to dive into the world of project flipping. If you're not familiar with it, we are taking project materials that aren't masonry and turning them into masonry projects. And I think Phil's up to 4 successes in just the end of 2021 year, right?
Yeah, I think in 2021, we probably worked on 25-ish projects through the MIM in Michigan. I think we were successful on about 13 of them, and 4 of them are actually in construction right now. And so we had a pretty good success rate in doing that. And we had a lot of things kind of to our advantage in 2021, and especially looking forward in 2022. For one, I mean, in Michigan, precast concrete has gone up pretty substantially in price, especially recently, where we sit in January of 2022. So we're having people come to us about jobs that may have gone precast concrete. Can we make them work load bearing? And we're happy to do that. In addition, some of the other supply chain issues affecting the steel industry and price escalations of the wood industry have just made it more economical to go load bearing. And not only is it, more economical, but we get a more resilient end product out of it. So yeah, we were pretty successful last year, and we're looking to do kind of the same thing, in 2022, but hopefully on a larger scale.
So walk me through it. Is it that the engineers or architects are reaching out to MIM, or are you cold calling projects that you see in your plan room? How is it working in the startup process?
So we've adapted our process a little bit. At the beginning, we were tracking projects through PlanGrid, and there was another software that the name is slipping right now. But there was another program that we were able to track projects, and we were tracking a few hundred projects and cold calling on those. But our success rate was pretty low on those, quite honestly. We were trying to call the CMs, architects, engineers, but not getting a whole lot of traction. What really happened was kind of spring, summertime. Our mason contractors who, make up such a broad range of not only size, but area in Michigan, they would find jobs, bid them, and look at the plans. And a lot of them from going to our events and things would think, hey, we could definitely make this work load bearing. And so they'd call me, just with my prior experience in the structural world. We would put together a preliminary structural package that they could then submit an alternate bid number on. And then I'd look at the energy code compliance, layout control joints, and kind of give them a full preliminary package of what that building would look like in masonry. Our local contractors then would take that, and we could provide pricing then to the owner or to the CM. And if it made sense, to go load bearing, then that's where we really saw our successes.
I gotcha. So I didn't realize, okay, so the contractor has a lot of involvement in this process, and it's probably really helpful because they're already, like you said, bidding on it. So it gives that you already have your foot in the door.
Absolutely. Yeah. We already have a local member there, and it is a service we offer only to our members. And so that way we can encourage membership with the MIM as well. I mean, we can get real numbers from them. So it's not
Right.
like we're going in RS means or, looking up average prices online or whatever. We have real hard cost data then to go to the CM and the owner with and present to them. And so that really helps bring that kind of full circle where now we have the preliminary information all set to them, and we have that pricing. Beyond that, if the architect or engineer wants, I'm more than happy to meet with them. We actually did a project up in Traverse City. It was a car dealership, and through Zoom, obviously with COVID, We had a few meetings, and I walked them through the structural software, how to use it, detailing considerations, things like that. That was one of our successful flips, and we were kind of involved in it, from soup to nuts, where we kind of got that early involvement with the contractor, but then we were able to actually build a relationship with the architect and engineer, and hopefully encourage them to use, masonry in the future as well.
I guess I'm just curious of once the contractor has brought it back as an alternative method of design, are you getting some pushback from the architects and engineers, or are they open to it because of the cost savings?
Most of them are pretty open to it. We haven't really come across any architects or engineers that are too abrasive to it. The question really becomes, who's going to pay for the redesign. Best case scenario, they still have some money in their design fees, and that's where it's real crucial to identify this stuff early on. If they've already expended 100% of their design fees, someone needs to pay for the building to get redesigned.
Mhm.
Will that be the owner, the CM? Will it come out of the contractor's savings? Somewhere that money needs to come. But if we can get involved early enough and kind of switch, tracks on it, and they still have dollars in their design budget, then it might not be an add to the project. And if we can get involved kind of at the schematic level or design development, kind of at the early stages of structural design, and when the architects are still working out their wall sections, there's not a lot of rework. Because what architects and engineers hate more than anything in the whole world is rework. We hate change, which I guess most of us do, but no one wants to find out after drawings, go out in our bid that, hey, we have to redo all these drawings. Early involvement is real crucial in this whole process.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that you guys are doing it and you're having success. It's like I said, we're working on it here, we're building up momentum and we're getting the word out that it's a service that we offer. It's just getting them to bite. But I didn't realize that how involved the contractor was. So now that I know that, I can start barking up their tree and start, talking to the architects or the owners and the CMs and just going from there. So, talking about the new year, we're in January and we're starting off big. I know you've got a lot of things coming down the pipeline with education and, just informing your members and non-members and just the overall advocate, educate, and promote masonry. What else are you working on for the MIM world, the Michigan world?
A big component of what we're doing is really increasing our online presence through marketing, which we partnered with Advancing Organizational Excellence, who is actually under ACI, which is headquartered here in Farmington Hills, and they've done a fantastic job at kind of highlighting our successes through our website, newsletter, social media, and so we've really gained a big presence through that, and that has in turn led to more calls about prospective projects and more technical inquiries because the more we can catch and design, the less problems there are in the field. And
Right.
so we always really encourage, architects, engineers, anyone really, if you have a question, reach out and we try to be responsive. More than anything through the MIM, I think my biggest mission is responsiveness. And, we don't want someone calling in and waiting a week for an answer. And so in most cases, if people call or email in, we can get an answer within 24 hours.
Yeah, and that's what's so important because that's the world we live in, right? Like, everything is instant. If you can't answer them within 24 hours, they're gonna find the answer somewhere else, and it'd rather be you giving the answer knowing, you're giving the correct information or them finding it on the internet or whatever it may be, and you don't know if it's right or not. I think the turnaround time is so important. Nobody wants to wait anymore.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's been a huge component to our success with flipping projects is usually by the time I find out about a project from a contractor, I mean, in most cases, I can have them preliminary structural drawings and information within 2 to 3 days, and so, I mean, from the day we find out about it to the day we can get it in front of the owner or the CM, with a full package and pricing and everything, yeah, I mean, optimistically, a week, I mean, worst case, maybe 2 weeks, but usually 7 to 10 days, we're right there. Where if we had to wait 2, 3, 4 weeks, to get something, I mean, they might already have footings in the ground. We already lost, and so, I mean, responsiveness more than anything is just so crucial. I mean, if you listen back to our Just in Time episode with Jeff Snyder, I mean, that's just the world we live in
Yeah.
as a construction industry, not just masonry, but we are a just in time market, especially in the northern climates, where construction is affected during the winter months. We don't have the luxury of time.
No, time doesn't work on our side, and kudos the, marketing campaigns because 'cause I've been big on since my role here for the last 5 years is we need to do marketing, right? Like, you have to do social media, you have to do even direct mailers. I am and do like traditional marketing because I think it's part of our audience. We still work with older groups, and they still are receiving mail, but then you have to keep the interest in the social media realm. And, UMI has also jumped on board with a big marketing campaign, and we're getting into billboards, and we've done some video content to get onto broadcast and just your social media videos as well. And it's funny, actually, just a quick story. We're doing workforce development at one of the local CTE centers, and the kid, he had never handled a trowel before. He just was so familiar with the trowel in the mud. I just kept watching him. I'm like, "Where did you learn this?" And he goes, "TikTok." And I'm like, "Really?" Because he knew how to furrow, he knew all the methods, and I'm just like, "TikTok taught you that?" He's like, "I follow all the construction content on TikTok." Quote, unquote, "all of it." I try to find TikTok content for construction, but my algorithm must be a very different than the 16-year-old boys that are in the CTE classroom. It was just interesting. It's just a good example of there's so much information out there that if we're not giving it to them, they're getting it somewhere, right?
Yeah.
You rather have them getting it from a place you know where it's coming from than other places. Luckily, this kid TikTok taught him right, which was great, but it's just crazy. They're watching 60-second, 30-second video clips, and that's where they're getting their information from. That's the next generation coming in.
Yeah, and I mean, one of our big focuses as well has been highlighting our members and their projects, because a year ago even, I mean, if we asked for photos of projects or, in some of our presentations and you look at them and, all the workers have mustaches and don't have sleeves on their shirt because the photos are from 1964. And,
Right.
our big message to everyone is, I mean, you don't have an excuse anymore. Bill Gates and Steve Jobs solved that for you. You have a camera in your pocket every minute of every day.
Yep.
Some of the photos we've gotten from our members, I mean, they're just beautiful buildings, they really are. I mean, some of the cast stone or, natural stone buildings or some of our brick buildings throughout Michigan, even our single width, if we look at some of our architectural units, I mean, we put out some beautiful buildings and people don't know about them. I mean, people think about masonry, think about a prison, they don't
Right. They're the
think
school
how
hallways.
masonry, yeah, can be aesthetic. And I've been just blown away by some of the photos our members have submitted, just in how beautiful these buildings are.
Well, and that's the importance of social media, and I know, like I said, we've got a mixed bag of generations in the workforce right now, and they're all so different. So, where we're so you can take a quick picture, upload it to Instagram, call it a day. It's just easy. Like, we've made it very easy to share, but then there's these older generations that just are like, they don't understand the concept of just sharing all of it.
Well, it's all brand recognition too. I mean, one of the things we're gonna do through the MIM is I'm getting a bunch of stickers printed with our MIM logo, that can go on a hard hat or whatever, and we'll have some sort of photo contest with a dollar prize or, whatever. And I mean, it's virtually free marketing.
So something we're working on, and it's just a conceptual phase right now, is like a architectural scavenger hunt that are masonry building specific. You're capturing the photos
Huh.
and then you're interacting. We're still working out the pieces of how it's going to look and how it will work, but you're also admiring the communities that you're living in, because what I've learned in the past year and going to these BOCES classrooms or CTE classrooms, if you will, is when you ask these kids, "Do you know a Mason? What do you think of when you think of Masonry?" They just kind of look at me. And that's why it's so important for us right now to get into these classrooms and just teach them the trade that is available. But then it's just eye-opening in the sense of like, there's Masonry in everybody's community and you don't even recognize it. So by the end of the week, what I say to them is, now that you've handled the material and the tools, I think you're going to have more of an appreciation for the areas that you live in, because you're going to start noticing the masonry buildings a little bit more before you just drove by them. It's all in the efforts of marketing, though.
Yeah.
It's plain and simple, but it's important. And then the marketing leads to opportunities, just like, with the value engineering and flipping of projects and having those conversations, nothing's off the table anymore.
Well, and especially in light of some of our recent storms, I mean, the tornadoes down in Kentucky, that were so devastating. I mean, our country is looking more into resilient construction, and we have an answer for that. And our answer can be cost competitive, it can be beautiful, and it most certainly is resilient. It's just getting in front of people and making them aware of those things. And I mean, if you could have a masonry building, or another material, but the masonry building can withstand a tornado or, a high wind event or whatever, why wouldn't you want that?
Well, that's what it's just funny because, you and I have talked a lot about it, but, like, sometimes it just seems like it's hidden in plain sight. It's the best kept secret, and it makes the most sense. But then I'm like, "Am I missing something?" Where I start questioning it. I don't have a technical background, and I'm very open and honest about it. But why wouldn't we use masonry more? Why aren't we building with block more? Like, the world is changing. Safety is a huge concern for so many people, and it just seems like we have the solution. It's an interesting perspective, and we're in for a great awakening with the year 2022 and all the years to follow, especially because if anyone hasn't heard by now, the CMU checkoff program has passed. And that's gonna be huge for us. Or at least I hope it will be huge for us, just like it was for other industries. And I'm gonna let Phil touch on it just a little bit in case I know we've had some episodes about it, but now that it's passed, what does it look like moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, where we sit right now in 2022, the first step is going to be establishing the board for the CME checkup, both federally and then in our different regions and different districts. And those will ultimately be the decision makers about where the dollars go. So now that our legislation has been passed, dollars will start being collected. But as with anything, I mean, we really need to question, are we investing in something that makes sense? What's the rate of return on it? And the board is ultimately going to be the deciders of that. And the board will be completely comprised of block producers. And so, Amanda, I won't be on it. We can definitely lobby, and be at large representatives, but it will ultimately be the block producers that make the decisions on where the money goes, which is good because they're the ones putting money into the program. And so it's good that they have complete oversight and there's complete autonomy there. But once the board is established, dollars start getting collected, they'll start evaluating proposals and will really be able to fund a lot more programs, um, you know, code programs, universities, workforce development, all the things that, we talk about, but haven't really had a means to do. This will hopefully provide us with the means to be able to improve on them. I'm really excited. I'm really optimistic about it. I think there's a lot of opportunities for masonry institutes like UMI and the MIM, for universities, for workforce. I think there's just a lot of opportunities that come out of this.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be great, and I mean, it's gonna take time to build up that fund, but once we have it, I guess the opportunities are endless, as long as they're approved.
And hopefully nationally, we can even look at, how we can flip projects because I mean, if we're successful here in Michigan, I mean, why can't we make those successes happen around the country? And I mean, especially if we look at prototype buildings, like grocery stores, gas stations, anything they build hundreds of in a year. I mean, let's go after those.
Yeah, you and I have always talked about that. I think you and I both think big in big terms and outside of the box. It's like once we have it, why wouldn't we? Right? Like what the Family Dollars and the Dollar Generals and the grocery stores and the gas stations. And, in a meeting that we were in, you had mentioned the low hanging fruit. Like, let's get it.
Yeah, if we can convert Dollar Generals or, one of those type of stores to masonry and it succeeds in Kansas and Florida and all these other areas around the country, I mean, I'm happy for those successes. And I think that's part of the mindset we need to change within the masonry industry is we don't do good at marketing
Right.
and we don't do good at helping each other. And that's something that we really need to improve. I mean, a masonry victory in Iowa or Kansas is just as important to me as a masonry victory in Michigan. I mean, we're kind of all in this together. And I really hope through checkoff it helps consolidate some of us so we can play off each other's successes, throughout the country. because reinventing the wheel it just needs to stop.
Yeah. Well, and you and I think we do a great job. We just did a year of podcasts. We should be so excited. We're kicking off our second year. That just kind of hit me. And we're a good example of working together, right? Like, well, I'm in New York, you're in Michigan, but it works. And we share.
Yeah, absolutely.
You do such a good job on the technical side. I share the marketing, business development, what we're doing on the workforce development side. It gives us an opportunity to brainstorm with each other too. Like what works for you might not work for me, but I like to hear your ideas.
Right. Well, I mean, everyone in our industry has different strengths and weaknesses, and I'm really just hoping it kind of opens the communication channels where, we can play off each other's strengths is what I'm really hoping comes out of this.
Yeah, and we're gonna bring up all those North Carolina architects to the Northeast Zone because they have a ton of masonry
Yeah.
down there.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as flipping projects, I mean, hopefully dollars are even in there to help train people to be aware of, what to look for, how to do it,
Yeah,
and how we can be successful at it. Because I mean, it's not something we can just do in Michigan. I mean, we can do it in all 50 states if we want to. We just need the people.
need the people and the capital. That's all it takes. Money talks. So, I know I'm really excited. It's the kickoff of the new year, and I think we both have some good things happening. We're really focused on the workforce development right now, and then we'll switch gears and go back to the educating of the engineers and architects, but we gotta get in during the school year, obviously. So, finding that balance it's been interesting, but I think we're finding our groove over here at UMI, still not ignoring the architects and engineers and offering the resources available, trying to be the glue. We want to keep everything together. There's just so much information to share out there. And I'm so excited. I know you've got a lot of education coming up and you're super organized with it. So I can't wait to push out what you're offering. I just think it's going to be a good year. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but I want to say I feel like a renaissance is happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very fortunate here in Michigan that we do have such a diverse membership at the MIM. That I mean, I'm learning something new every single day myself. And if someone calls in and I don't know an answer, it's very easy for me to pick up a phone and call one of our members, and they've encountered it before. I really can't discount our membership, and they all do a great job at kind of leaving all the issues at the door at our board meetings, and we can just talk about things collectively as a group. It's not ever argumentative. And I mean, there's just so much value in that.
Yeah, I mean, because I think when it comes down to it, as far as an industry, if it's good for masonry, it's good for everyone, right?
Yeah, absolutely. A rising tide lifts all ships.
Yeah, it's a good motto. Like we're not in this separately; we're in this together. And I look forward to sharing, more things that UMI is doing and the successes that we have and the failures that we've had. Right now, we're on a high with the success of this workforce development program, going into the schools individually and offering hands-on training weeks at a time, and it's opening eyes and opportunities, and I love sharing the information with the kids because what we failed at is allowing masonry to come out of the CTE classrooms, and then there was a gap for so long, so now we're rebuilding it, and we can only go up from here. It's been a really good start off to the week, I would say, or the month and the year. So I can't wait to share more information as we continue throughout the year. And we're going to have some great guest speakers come on with some really good information. We've got a good lineup. And if you like the information that we're giving you and you have some ideas or topics that you'd like us to talk about, feel free to reach out to either Phil or I. Our information is available on both our websites, masonryinfo.org and masonrynetwork.org. So feel free to reach out to us. Thank you for listening. Happy New Year. And show me the masonry.
Yeah, let's see some more masonry in 2022.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Masonry Principles. To continue the conversation, be sure to reach out to us by visiting masonryprinciples.com.